Now to our discussion segment. The Monetary Policy Committee in its final meeting for 2025 yesterday surprised the markets once again, a move many analysts did not see coming. The MPC kept the monetary policy rate unchanged at 27%, opting instead to adjust the policy corridor while leaving other monetary instruments untouched. Now, at the same time, the country is approaching 2026 without a proposed federal budget, raising concerns about planning, expenditures, and investor confidence. Now, joining us to provide insight into these critical issues is the policy and economic analyst, Chris Kaka. Well, thank you for joining us, Mr. Kaka.
My pleasure being here.
Okay. You know, there's so many speculation before finally the CBN gets to make its own decision. Were you expecting the outcome?
Thank you very much again. I think what the central bank has done is what it did the last time when it had its meeting. It's been very cautious about it. Developments that are going on truly. Food price, inflation is actually dropping. A bag of rice, if you use that as an index, is going less than below 50,000 now. The price of PMS energy is also dropping. It's stable as it were. And the exchange rate, just like you also read, is also stable. These are indicators that tells them that actually they are the last monetary policy indicators which they had is also yielding result. And so to then go ahead and cut a very sharp, have a deep cut into the MPR would not have been a very good one. So it's been cautious again by retaining it. If it was going to cut in the first instance, it wouldn't have been any more than about 50 basis points thereabout, which would have been not too significant. So what it has actually done, retaining all the indicators, it's not out of place and it's not what is not expected. What it has really changed, and the whole thing I saw was just the asymmetric corridor, which before now was plus minus 250. Now it's about 40 plus 40 minus 450, which appears more like it's going to be difficult for some of them to want to actually approach the central bank for overnight lendings to meet up their CRR and the rest of them. By and large, what has happened is not any different from what is going on globally.
Okay. So what are the likely implications for banks, businesses, manufacturers as well?
I think like the central bank governor also noted, we're trying to drive towards a single-digit interest rate, and we're still far away from achieving that particular one, but I think it has to go gradually. For the banking system now, there's really nothing that has changed. Their capacity to also lend remains the same as it were before. In fact, right now, it will be more difficult. With the minus asymmetric corridor of minus 450 and plus 40 thereabout, it will be difficult for them to want to begin to throw around careless liquidity. But at the moment, lending is still going to remain the same for them. The central bank has cautiously also kept that of the merchant bank because they are the ones who lend for the productive economy. And it's been careful to ensure that there is a disaggregation between what is left for deposit money bank and what is left for merchant bank to also ensure that we continue to actually keep productivity going on. So for me, the commercial deposit money banks are their ability to lend has not really changed because the MPR has been what it used to be before. And I don't really see much of change. There's nothing to celebrate about it for them because it's business as usual. I mean, the status quo remain.
Okay, so far about 16 banks have recapitalized.
That's correct.
And 27, they're actually on track to actually do same. What do you make of this development?
Well, I think it's a good development. It's also showing that the financial sector of the economy is strong, stable, and is able to actually drive development for the economy. I think it's something to celebrate. And like the CBN governor said, some other 20-something banks are also making their ways to ensure that shows the stability of the economy because the financial sector of any economy also shows, it's an indication to the kind of development you expect to have in that particular economy. And I think it's a good development for every one of us to have almost that number of the banks being able to actually meet up with the requirements of the CBN in this direction.
Okay, talking about the budget now, you know, so far we've seen budget delays and Nigeria's fiscal you know, outlook as well. Nigeria is somehow nearing 2026 with no proposed federal budget. How worrying is this in terms of economic planning and government operations?
Okay, I think it's very, very worrisome because, I mean, there's a trajectory with this particular government. I'm sorry to say that in 2023 the supplementary budget of 2023 ran into 2024. 2024, as we speak today now, is still running. What we were told was that it was going to end in June, then later extended to December. So 2025 budget itself has not fully taken off implementation. Now, the worrying part of it is that government is the largest spender in any economy. In fact, some organizations, particularly in the private sector, benchmark the activity in the particular year based on what government actually pushes out on this budget. And so when you see that this budget is actually delayed, what it means is that a lot of the capital projects are going to suffer. A lot of constructions are not really going to go on because 2024 budget is currently being implemented. 2025, from what I realize, I think about just recently, less than about 30% of the capital was actually released.
So is it possible to have like 3 budgets running
concurrently? I don't see 2026 because you know why? The medium-term expenditure framework, which according to the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2007, expect that the medium-term expenditure framework and its physical paper needs to have been considered and approved by the National Assembly before you then push the budget. The reason is because the parameters, oil revenue, the benchmark of the prices, all the rest of them, those indicators are supposed to be in that particular document. And that will inform the kind of budget you prepare and the envelope you give. As we speak today, no ministry has got a call circular to begin to prepare its budget for 2026 because 2025 is still on ground. And so what it actually means for us is that there is going to be, I don't see 3 budgets running concurrently. It's a huge problem for Nigeria, and we don't see the government coming out with explanations of what is actually causing the delays and budgets running over into the other year. And we need to be worried about it.
Now, talking about real problem, what risk do delayed budgets pose for capital projects, social programs, and
to be honest with you, if we say recurrent will continue, I mean, whether you pass the budget or not for the following year, recurrent will continue, government will continue to pay salaries, overhead expenditure will continue, but capital project, which also defines and help the development of the economy, would actually not find its place going on. And what it means is that social intervention projects, which are supposed to be in the 2026 budget, are actually nowhere going at the moment. Capital projects, new capital projects that should have been in the budget, particularly constituency projects, which is the trend now, you have them in some MDA's budget, are actually going nowhere as we speak. And so what we are having is going to be an economy in 2026 that will only be, in fact, it is 2025 will start to implement if 2024 is concluded, 2025 budget. We'll start implementing 2025 budget. And that means that projects that need to have actually been concluded before now and still not going to be done will still be an ongoing project, and that in itself is a huge problem for the government to manage. I don't know how they want to go about it.
Okay, how can the federal government actually improve credibility, transparency, and timeliness in budget preparation?
When you speak of credibility, I think we need to actually clear. Credibility is about being able, budget credibility is about being able to predict. Yeah, we know budget is an estimate, but being able to predict as close as possible to reality as it is of what you are putting in the budget. What we have are budgets that are padded. Sometimes the figures are inflated. You hardly see any figure being less than what it should be. And that in itself speaks about the credibility of our budget. And that's part of the problem we're having. We have a problem with development financing in Nigeria because some of the budget we have, I feel less than half of the amount quoted in it can actually finance the budget. And that means if with that kind of bogus budget we have, you find that government continually begins to borrow money, continues to borrow money and service debt for us to begin to run our economy. And that is actually not helping us. In any case, if 2026 budget is not out by now, it means that the debt obligation that should be contained in it, that we need to be servicing, is actually going nowhere. And that means if you don't meet your debt obligations, you find that the interest is adding to the principal, and the principal is also beginning to grow, and your debt servicing begin to skyrocket when it is time for you to want to pay it.
Now, in the broader perspective, what alignment do you see between monetary policy direction and fiscal policy gaps at this critical point?
All right, I think that's a good one, particularly now that one of the fiscal policy instrument we use beyond the budget itself is that particular element of taxation. And you know there's the new Nigerian Tax Act 2025 is starting implementation in 2026, 1st January, as it were. There are a lot of provisions in it that reduces liability in terms of company income tax, value-added tax, personal income tax. If you earn less than 800,000, I mean, your first 800,000 now is not going to be taxed. There's a lot of elements in it that will actually help to boost the productive sector of the economy. But then again, that must be in sync with the monetary policy. If both of them do not align, so the monetary policy cannot be doing, the fiscal policy cannot be doing an expansionary fiscal policy while the monetary policy is doing a contractionary monetary policy. It will never go that way. Both of them must align to ensure that the objectives that needs to be achieved, which is overall, the development of Nigeria is actually being achieved. So we need to have adequate supply of money in the economy for you to have the GDP growing, and it means to achieve that, the monetary policy, the interest rate needs to continually drop, because until it drops, you might not be able to achieve that alignment between the fiscal policy and the monetary policy leg of the economy.
Now, going into 2026, what would what would be your current recommendations for stabilizing both fiscal and monetary frameworks?
Okay, thank you very much. I think government is having a good footing in terms of the new Nigerian Tax Act, reducing tax liability for both SMEs and individuals so that they are able to face what they need to do. But I think, again, is that the government itself must begin to provide some soft resources, soft loans at single interest, some concessions that the central bank needs to provide for the economy, the productive sector to want to begin to find it much easier to begin to produce. Again, we'll still need to deal with the issue. Yes, at the moment, food price inflation is down, but I think it's a temporary one because government is importing food. If you stop the importation, you will realize that there's a deficit in food production in this country, and that means that the food price in the country, it's not the current low food price that we have, it's not sustainable until we begin to increase production. And that means we need to address issues that are not directly related to it, but are also tangential to it. We need to deal with issues of security of farms. People don't go to farms anymore. We need to deal with the issues of kidnapping and the rest going on around here. We need to make Nigeria safe for people to be able to get involved in productive ventures that will actually contribute to real GDP for the country to actually achieve development.
Mr. Chris Kaka, it's been a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, moving on, transforming knowledge.